All right, so I think the worst thing that can happen, people think the thing can happen to a comic is that you get heckled. And I know you have a story about getting heckled, but it's a little bit different than most.
Well, not just heckled. Have you ever been booed?
Oh yeah,
Like legitimately, like people booing, like saying the words "boo" to you on
okay. I
stage?
guess that's fair. I've never had anyone say the word "boo" to me.
Yeah. Okay. I've never been booed by a crowd. I've only ever been booed by a guy, and that was in an audience of one. It was it was like some show for some reason we're doing in the middle of December at what amounts to like a mom and pop version of Hula Hands, like some kind of like
which is like like a kind of like a sports bar, right?
right, yeah, all I remember is there being brass rails and tiers. Like there's like a sunken living room,
Right.
and then like a upper part
Like
where there was a
tiered
bar,
theater.
and then
Right.
like a little crow's nest, and that's where the comedy was. And it just so happened to be on a night of an insane, like cold snap, sleet snowstorm. And I called like the guy who was putting it on. I was like, "We're not still doing this, are we?"
So
And he's like,
before you go any further, how early on in your career was this?
"This is." I have to divide because I've been doing it for 13 years, so I have to divide it into thirds. So this has to be in the first third. So like maybe
And
the first three years or something like that.
that seems to be so true with all of these stories is that in the first few years
Oh,
is when you're just taking these horrible, horrible gigs because you don't know any better.
well, also, where else is going to give you a chance to do anything? The
Right.
Improv's not calling people and being like, "Hey, you know what? Our headliner for this weekend just bailed out. Can you fill in? Guy who's been doing it a month and a half. It
We've
doesn't work that
heard
way."
you have a good story about shitting your pants.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What's your take on necrophilia? I'm sure that you have some jokes there.
Okay.
Um,
There's a snowstorm.
but of course, like any gig that's at that time, the check's already, the contract has to be filled. I go out there and I'm like, there's not going to be any way. The roads are slick. I'm slipping all over the place. It's like an hour from my house. It's over pretty much on the exact opposite side of the city. And I go there, and sure enough, it looks like the bar is closed, except the lights are on, the TV's on, and there's like a bartender and a waitress. I'm like, all right. And I see the guy who put it on. I was like, so we're still doing this? And he's like, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's paid for, so we gotta do it. I was like, okay. And he's like, maybe some people will show up. And I was like, what optimism is there in that little breath that there? Yeah, because now we're starting the comedy show. People are just a little bit late. There's like 3-car pileups on the 4-lane highway right outside.
Right.
He's like, maybe some people will show up.
It's so funny because that is also though the comics mentality of like it could be 5 minutes before the show and they're like, well, traffic could be bad.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure people will hold the doors. Hold the doors five
If you've
minutes.
noticed anything, when the crowd is light, a comic always has an excuse for why there's nobody in the audience.
Right.
There's always, it doesn't matter what the season, oh, it's winter, people don't want to, it's too cold, like people don't come out. Oh, it's summer, everyone's doing stuff outside, nobody wants. Oh, it's spring, it's like hockey playoffs, like nobody wants to come. There's always some
There's
type of
always a
excuse going
reason.
on.
There's always
Right.
an excuse to why that nobody showed up.
And that's why because you don't want to look bad in front of the person that just paid you to entertain the crowd or whatever.
Right.
So all I remember is, I think, because I was young in my career, I think I was, I don't know if it was one of these showcase things, but I think there was only like 4 or 5 comedians on the show, probably
How much
3 of
time?
whom showed up.
How much
What's
time are
that?
you supposed to do?
Probably like under 10 minutes, maybe, I bet.
Okay.
And of course, when there's no crowd, your 10 minutes becomes 2.5 of
Right.
just you rapid fire micro machine man speaking your jokes and trying to hope for the absolute best. Hey, I gotta what punchline. Yeah, no
Put out on
pauses in
sandwich,
between.
right?
Yeah. Well, I can't stand when people treat a small audience like it's a big audience, and like, have their thoughtful pauses after their jokes and kind of wander around the stage. It's like, okay, get on with it. Like,
Get these people
we
out
gotta
of here. Whoever's here,
yeah.
just let them go.
Yeah, we're gonna hit. It's like going on Netflix and you hit the fast forward and it's 1.5 times. That should be your speed on a show that's like this. So there was literally one audience member one guy who was not an employee of the bar or a comedian. He was sitting with his back turned towards whatever makeshift stage that we had, like always. So he seemed like one of these guys who was a regular, but also had been divorced in the last like 30 days. Like he just disheveled tie, looked like he had just been through the ringer.
Right.
And so, of course, all of us are going up there. I don't know if I was going on first or if I was hosting or whatever, but I'm like 8 minutes into my set, and you're not getting any laughs because there are no laughs to get outside of the awkward ones that other comedians have. It's like that Schadenfreude laughs that comedians have when it's going horribly for you.
Bad, yeah.
And it's the hardest you kill with comedians is when it's going horribly for you. And I think I was trying to like do the stretch out trick of crowd work, but there's no crowd. It was just guy work. I was just working on a guy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, and what do you do, buddy? And he just ignored me, and I was like, oh, one of these guys. Oh yeah. And then
one of these guys, real quiet type.
Yeah,
am I right?
real John Wayne type over here. And I'll never forget. He literally he's looking at at the TV. There was like a basketball game on. He's like eating a hamburger and drinking a beer, and he turns around and he just goes, boo. Boo.
Oh no.
And it so shocked me. I was like, are you booing me?
Right.
Goes, yes, I'm booing you. And it was way too threatening and way too intimate to just have one guy making direct eye contact with you going, boo to you. I'm booing you.
So how much time do you have left?
I think I finished up. I mean, I think I was towards the end of my set because I think I was already irritating him to that point where he felt that it was necessary to boo me. So I think I pretty much wrapped up at that point. I probably collected my $15 after spending $20 in gas money, right. and then made it on my way. But I've never been booed by a crowd, but I've been booed by a singular man.
Okay, so I have a few more questions about this. So this guy, when he turns and boos, and you realize now he's booing you, what is in your head? Are you like you can't process it? Or
no, immediately I was like, I understand.
I understood. You understood.
Oh yeah. I mean, your initial reaction was like that. You know how your heartbeat gets up and you're like, adrenaline starts going. Like you're like, I'm gonna have to fight, fight or flight kind of thing.
Right.
But then immediately after that, like the heartbeat rose up. It was just like, no, he's right. You're wrong. Like you shouldn't be here. This shouldn't be going on. You shouldn't be bothering him. This is a ridiculous scenario to expect him to pay attention to you. And then furthermore, you were bothering him with your crowd work because it wasn't going great. So I was like, fair enough. You're all right.
Wow. So now are the other comics going up and doing just as bad?
I don't know that I stayed I think I might have just left after that. I remember Terry Jones was there. That's the only, and I don't know if he booked it or if he was just involved or something like that. But I do remember he was there. And I'm sure in retrospect, if I did that bad, there's no way I was going to miss everybody else doing as bad as I was right after the fact. I would have stuck around for that.
Right. So, oh my God. So then you have that drive home. That's what a lot of people don't understand is like when you have the bomb, it's not just the bomb. It's the whole trek home. And then until kind of your next show where that's like on the tip of your tongue. So are you, at this point, are you ever questioning like, what have I done? Like, what have I done to get myself into this business?
Well, so I think when you're a professional comedian, which I am not, I don't do it for a paycheck. I have real work, other work that I do, this is a hobby. So quitting becomes a complete understandable reality. I don't have anything riding on this. Why am I doing this to myself? What have I done?
Right.
Why am I putting myself through this? Why the embarrassment, the stress, the expectations that are on it every single time? It'd be different if I was in your point where, you're kind of depending on it for cash flow. You kind of got to suck it up and it might deaden that a little bit. But when it's just a hobby that gives you that level of rejection, there's no model train builders that have ever felt like I felt driving away from that gig being booed by one person.
There's no accountants that ever leave their job be like, I don't know if this is good for me.
No.
I don't know if
I think that there probably are, but when it's a hobby, think about a hobby.
yeah, okay.
If you're painting and your painting makes you feel a deep spinal level of rejection, would you ever continue doing it?
No. Like
No.
if you got finished painting a sunset and then by the time you were done, you were like,
And
I
some
don't
guy
know
came
who
up
I
and
am
booed your
anymore.
somebody booed your sunset, then there's no if you had an art gallery and someone came up to your painting and said, "Boo, I don't like this. This is terrible." Would you ever paint again? Probably not.
Yeah. Oh God. It's almost worse than being heckled by more than one person because it's like, sometimes when you have smaller crowds, the crowds can kind of get behind like, hey, we're all in this together mentality. But for one guy to stop what he's doing, turn around, like after you've already have gone through, you've done your material, like you're both sort of accepting that you're there. And then he's like, I can't take another second anymore. I have
I'm done.
to let
I'm
him
fed
go.
up with this.
And there's no hiding in the crowd. Like sometimes you hear like a boo or a heckle and you're like, where'd that come from? And they don't say anything. And like, all right, fine. But to know exactly for someone to turn around in their chair like Dr. Claw
That's
and,
basically what it was.
and call you out is so funny.
I see.
So,
I don't think I've seen people get booed by a large crowd, and I think that would be way worse.
really,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Come on, that's got
I
to
don't
be way
know.
worse.
I don't know. Just the connection, the intimacy of one person locking eyes with you to just say, I disagree with everything you're
But
doing.
see, this is what I think is that the gig was set up to go bad, so I had kind of tempered my expectations. If you have a full crowd
Yeah.
and start getting booed, you were set up for success, and now it's not going good.
Yeah, that's a good point where you're like, what could go wrong? And then it goes really
It
bad.
goes horribly wrong. Yeah.
Now, I know in that vein, you have some stories of, because I've seen you kill, I've seen you murder, and we all have the same feeling sometimes of like, you get off stage and you're like, I am so good at comedy. I love this. I'm going to go try to find another set somewhere.
Yeah.
And then you go, and 9 times out of 10, I would say it is not, you should have just went home.
Absolutely. If there's any advice I can give any comedian, it's that old showbiz trick of like know when to fold them,
Yeah. Stop
Like
while you're ahead.
so I had 2 gigs in one night. I had booked a like kind of like a fundraiser at like a nice restaurant, but it was for people that like I kind of grew up around. So there was a lot of like I was making a lot of references during my one set that they were getting, and I think they immediately connected with me because I said that I liked the fried chicken place that they all knew, or that type of thing.
You do a local joke, right?
Yeah,
Murder.
couple real local, like hyper local jokes.
Yeah.
But
You get to you kind of do the thing where you like, if you're in a different town or something, you get there a little bit early and you kind of walk around and drive around and start to see, oh, okay, there's that shitty little restaurant.
yeah, ask people, do they get this reference, like that kind of thing.
Right.
But I did 20 minutes, and I will say it was the best 20 minutes I have ever had in my life. I have other people that were witness to it, that were objective observers. One of my comedian friends, he goes, you could have said like, let's overthrow the government as you were getting off stage, and people would have like thrown themselves down, and you could have walked over top of them, like straight down to the Capitol building. Like that really was the level. I was getting high fives, like standing ovation, the whole 9 yards. It was one of those things. You ever been killing so hard that like halfway through, you're just like, what is wrong with these people?
Right. You're like,
you're just like, what is this? Yeah, this is this can't be actually happening.
This is just all heat. So, but the point is that you're killing so much that you're really building yourself up high on a house of cards.
I'm smoking it right now. Like I should be on the road, man. I'm gonna like I maybe I should quit my day job. Like that's how good this is going. So I'm like, I'm gonna go to this second gig with this energy and absolutely torch this place down. I'm gonna, every comedian's gonna be talking about it the next day, blah blah blah. So I go to the next gig, and it's palpably less energy right out of the gate, and it's down in a very crowded bar district in Pittsburgh called the South Side.
Okay.
And as I go up on stage, and immediately I got over my skis. I was just treading water, was not having the set that I thought. as I'm on stage, the kind of the stage is sort of next to some windows.
So wait, before you, because I know it's coming, I would love to know before we give this big thing. Did you call down and say, "Hey, can I do another set"? Did you have the set booked?
No, this was booked anyway. So like I was going here pretty much no matter what. I wasn't like sort of chasing the dragon. It was an obligation.
But you have that feeling of like, this is what it means to be a comedian.
Yeah, I'm going 2 gigs in one night. Oh yeah, like yeah, getting paid twice in one night. Like this is what it's all about.
And is this at a bar, like a bar in the South Side? Because the South Side is a lot of younger people are going there. They're drinking, they're partying. You know,
it's a small music venue that has a reputation for being really hit or miss.
Okay.
It's always kind of like up and down. But I was thinking it was going to be up. Everything was looking up for me that night. It was going
like,
really
maybe
good.
I should get a new car.
I made $100 tonight. I mean, why can't I go make a down payment? So I'm on stage. It's not going great. And all of a sudden I hear there's commotion outside and people are running past the window. So I'm like doing my set and all you see in the background is just whoa, whoa. People darting back and forth. There's sirens, people screaming. And so I'm on stage. I'm literally like 5 minutes into a 15-minute set.
Oh,
people shrieking. The host goes out to see what's going on. He comes back in. He looks like he almost threw up. And if he didn't throw up, he's about to. So the whole crowd is now, the attention has shifted slightly to the left and no one cares what I'm saying whatsoever. And I'm even kind of like looking out there like, what the hell's going on? And
so no one's paying attention.
No one's paying attention. Because I mean, that's way more. It's like Godzilla was outside. There's literally like, there's destruction, there's flames, there's smoke coming all over the place. So I get off stage and I go up to the host. I'm like, what the hell? What was that all about? Like, what was going on outside? And he is like literally trying to swallow back his own vomit. He's going like, so the South Side is real. They have all these sidewalks. They're really crowded with tons of drunk people. And it was like, I think it was a late show. It was probably midnight when I even was on stage. Jaywalking, all this kind of stuff. And I guess some drunk guy had swerved in front of a guy on a motorcycle. The motorcycle guy tried to swerve out of the way of the driver and jumped the curb and like ran over 3 people, severing someone's leg completely off the bone on the sidewalk, literally like maybe 12 yards from where I was performing on stage.
12 yards.
So
you could see it.
Yeah, no, I thank God couldn't see it. I was just getting, so then of course I just stayed in the bar until like everything got clean for like another like 2 hours because I wasn't going out there in that whole commotion.
You finished your set.
Yes, sure. I was like, man, my closer didn't do as good as I thought it might.
Yeah.
So I go and I got nothing basically the whole night. So I went from top of the pops, like as best as you humanly, or at least that I could humanly do in one setting, to absolute the worst possible you could do in another setting, all within a span of maybe an hour and a half. Went from a 10 to a 0. And I was like, that's sort of the justice of that system, is that right when you think you're feeling yourself, you get smoked, you get done.
That's much like the guy who got his leg severed, you know?
Yeah, because
like,
got
right when you think
taken out at the knees, so to speak. Yeah,
you get taken out. Oh my God. So again, a few more questions about this, because it's so easy. After you're done, are you like, well, that makes sense, that's why nobody got it?
There was it colored it, but I wasn't really having a good set to begin with, so I think that just became like a crutch to be like, well,
like,
if that guy didn't have his leg severed off, I would have been killing right there. But I don't think that was the case. I think I was not bombing, but I was doing not good. Probably 6 minutes in, and then when the motorcycle thing happened, I was actually happy because it like distracted everybody. Be like, oh, thank God, like, they don't have to look at me anymore. Yeah, let me just get through this.
So yeah, you're like, all right, we need some sort of distraction, anything, you know.
Yeah, but that's so much of like there's so much environmental factors that you can't control whatsoever when you're doing comedy. It's not just your set; it's like a lot of that outside stuff too. I've been at bars where there's been assaults going on in tandem with your set. There's been, it's like crazy stuff happens that way. I one time was doing a show at a bar. it was like, set up by some scumbag comedian who just told his buddy who owned a bar that he'd stick a karaoke machine at the end of the bar, and that was our
It's
stage.
always great.
Yeah. And I remember being nervous beforehand because it was kind of a rough crowd to begin with. And I remember there was like a commotion like 15 minutes before the show. And then as the first thing that this comedian who set this thing up goes, he goes, okay, we're going to have comedy up here tonight. But first of all, to the dude who punched our waitress in the face, cops are waiting outside, dude. Cops are waiting outside, so you better get out there. So that was the whole, so somebody had punched a waitress right before the comedy show. And then instead of saying, okay, shouldn't have a comedy show now, we just proceed as normal and make our jokes about Paris Hilton at the time and everything like that.
So instead of that guy approaching you and being like, hey guys, we had an assault.
Yeah.
They say they're kind of on edge.
Yeah. Cops are outside. This could pop off and be even worse now. But
we're gonna reschedule.
You know what people need right now in a time like this? Laughs.
Yeah.
So, and then just bring me up cold, and then have me.
So you had to follow the reading of the charges.
Yeah. I was basically following a rap sheet.
Right. Yeah.
It was here are the wing specials. You're wanted for felony assault, and here's Jeff Konkle.
Right. You know him from all the local clubs and colleges. Keep it going for Jeff Konkle.
You know him from cowering with his shoulders up in this corner booth while all this was going on 10 minutes ago.
Wait, did you see the assault?
No, I didn't see it, but there was anytime there's a commotion, I hunch up. That's all.
Right. Okay. So you have an extremely violent show.
Yeah, severed legs, felony assaults, all sorts of stuff.
So again, with the severed leg thing, I gotta know, when you leave that show, so you wait for everything to cool down, and I'm assuming they clean up the severed leg and everything, and then you're heading home. Are you thinking to yourself again, what is going on? Who am I?
No, to me that felt like justice. I did feel like I literally, for me, I felt like you were feeling pretty good about yourself, but too much, and the universe can't let you feel too good about yourself.
It does suck that you dragged that poor guy into
my karmic whirlpool. Yeah, I don't think he didn't deserve that based off of my.
There's a little part of you that thinks if you hadn't gone to that other show that would have never happened.
No, at the South Side, I have a feeling that happens 3 to 4 times a month.
Yeah, they're just like, we got another one.
There's a grotesque accident, that is alcohol related at some point.
My God. So when you're talking to the host and you realize he's somebody's leg got cut off, are you pausing, or are you like, wow, that's crazy, or like, yeah, but my set was really good.
I was like, yeah. Oh man, is he all right? Hey, I did that new thing about Jupiter being the biggest planet. Do people even know that? They're like, is that something that resonates with people?
Looking for tags?
Yeah, I was looking for tags. Yeah, do you have anything for me on that one?
Do you have anything? Yeah. I mean, you came up in the scene of a lot of bar shows, so you've just been around. I mean,
dude, that's why I get the mindset of people calling people soft and everything. Because I just think about the nice places there are to perform in Pittsburgh right now, as opposed to where I had to start. But it's weird because it was obviously bad, but I wouldn't trade it. You know what I mean? I wouldn't trade it in for anything. It still was fun. Even though it was weird and dangerous and
Now, did any of this take place at Corner Cafe?
No, Corner Cafe, I feel like was always a little sketchy, but I never got to the point where it was borderline dangerous or anything like that. I feel like I've heard of people that have had that experience.
My first and only time at Corner Cafe, I went there for a show, and I was with you, I believe, and because you had said one of the comics was on stage, and he's supposed to be closing, and it's there's 4 people in the audience, one of these things, and everybody wants to go home, and this guy is going after 5 people, and he's just doing 30 minutes. I'm not going to say who it is. And he keeps going, what do I do next? What do I do next?
Oh my God.
And you're just just wrap it up. Who said that? You know, and you're like, we want to go home. But I remember the host going on stage at one point and saying, the later that we stay in this back room, the more dangerous it is to leave, because at the time, I don't know what it's like now, there was a biker gang that used to roam through the south side and the south side flats, and they
Mm.
would go down onto the main street of Carson Street. And after they would get thrown out of those bars, they would come up to Corner
Oh,
Cafe and hang out. And I was like maybe a year into comedy. I think I was like 20 or 21. You know, I think I might have bought my second beer at this place. And I remember coming out of this room, this smoky room, and the whole bar is just full of pagan bikers. And like,
mhm.
and I'm walking around in like a,
You've
you
got
know,
your button-down shirt, your
yeah,
comedy shirt
I'm
on.
like in khaki pants. I'm like, hey fellas, how you doing? You know, I mean, these places that especially you started in were so, they weren't good places to be if you
Period.
weren't doing comedy.
Right.
Yeah.
If you were a drunk, you wouldn't even want to be in some of these places.
Right. Yeah, they were dangerous. They were very dangerous. Did you ever do the there's a bar in Sheridan, Pennsylvania next to the original Quaker Steak and Lube?
No.
Oh, I did it for Billy Elmer, and it
Well,
was so bad.
yeah.
There was three people in there. I did you like 25 minutes before him. It was so sad because much like your gig with the one guy, when there's a small group of people, you do feel like you're kind of holding them hostage.
Right.
And it's like, if it wasn't for me, these people might be able to go on about their
And
evening.
enjoy their night. Yeah.
Right. Like there were people shooting pool. They obviously didn't know that there was a show about to start. And like, I'm like, you guys shooting pool over there, huh? Nice. Nice. Like, dude,
Thinking that's going to draw them in, and it's
right.
actually
Yeah.
having the opposite effect. They're like putting a cue ball in a sock and starting to twirl it around.
Right. Yeah. They're like, please, please don't do this. Please don't do this to yourself. Don't do this to us. So, I mean, as you've progressed though in comedy, do you think you have started to take less bad gigs?
Oh yeah. But
What,
see, I don't know. Sometimes I miss doing that, and I'll agree to one just because I know it's going to be a little sketchy.
just to feel alive again?
Yeah, it's just yeah.
Like,
Prick
kind
the
of
skin
play,
to see if it bleeds, kind of thing.
yeah, you're like to play Russian roulette just
Yeah,
to
a little bit. Yeah,
see.
but overall, I think there's a time for that, and I don't really seek that out necessarily anymore. I don't even know if that type of thing exists anymore, really. Like
Yeah,
at the same level. Because
yeah,
everywhere now, even a bar show, it's like at a vegan brewery. Like, how rough is it going to get, at a microbrewery?
yeah, that's true. Like if a place that sells mead,
Yeah, it's not
there's
going to get too crazy.
not a lot of of the Hell's Angels aren't hanging out there. Uh,
Yeah, unless there's nickel drafts, then it's not going to be super crazy.
that's the thing too that I think people forget. There was a time when you could get beer specials like super cheap. So people would get beer sponsors for shows and
Oh
have,
yeah.
like almost free beer for anybody that attended.
Hmm.
And people would get hammered and just start, it would be like riots, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's what I always liked about like those VFW shows is that it was BYOB. So people were always in a little bit looser mood but it had a point. Like at some point it got to be too much and it was like a hazard to leave the show because everyone was drunk backing out at the same time. But
Right?
but
You
uh
had to wait. You either had to leave immediately after your set or you had to wait like after the
an
smoke
hour.
had cleared. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then ultimately you're hanging out with like three of the real locals at the VFW and they're telling you about their side businesses and how they tried comedy one time at the old Funny Bone in Station Square. And yeah, that's generally how it
Did
goes.
you ever like take any locals up on like this was always very popular in the rural VFW scene where they would invite you back to like their place or like an after hours place after
Nope.
the show. Did you ever take anyone up on that?
No, I never, I've just been instilled that there's way too many people with meat hooks in their basements to pull that off.
So
I've
you
been invited a few places, but I never go to a second location ever. You never know what's waiting for you there.
that's
How,
so
how, how good is that experience going to be? That's my question.
Right. Yeah. What?
It could be
How,
a 100, a negative 100, or a positive maybe 7.
right.
That's the
Because
best it's gonna get.
you're gonna have maybe 2 or 3 more drinks, maybe risk having to stay at their place, or
Yeah, or they're gonna offer you meth at gunpoint. Like that's the best it's gonna get. It's just like, are you down? Well, if you ain't down, we got
yeah,
a problem. Like that's the
you're
best
not
your
with
night's gonna
us.
get.
You're
Yeah.
against us. Yeah. Right. Oh man, that's fantastic, Jeff. I really appreciate you doing this.
Yeah,
Uh,
man.
Thanks for coming on. Where can people find you? You're on WDVE 102.5 DV every Wednesday.
WDV Wednesday mornings at 6 o'clock.
We want to throw out like a Twitter or an Instagram or
I don't have either of those things.
you're off of Twitter?
Yeah.
Wow, you're going super off the grid.
Yeah, it's horrible. Why do I want to be on that?
All right. Well, thanks, buddy. I appreciate you doing this.
All right, see ya.
Bye.